Start, Jennifer.
Yeah, so first, thank you for having us. So welcome any opportunities I can to get out into our community. Um, and obviously sirens kind of are one of those hot topics, especially when, we're looking at putting in new ones. So I'm going to start with just kind of just a real brief overview of kind of our siren system, when we activate them and how that all works. And then I'm going to kind of open it up for questions regarding any of that. And then we'll turn it back over to Kevin to talk about like the technology and the scope, any of that, the technical mumbo jumbo that I don't necessarily know, decibels and all of that other stuff, because I am not a tech whiz. That's what I keep him around for. We do currently have 17 sirens within the city. We are looking at moving 2 and adding 2 more. And one of them there is the one in y'all's area. We, for a city of our size, we do have generally probably more based on our square footage or our size than other cities our size. But that is because our city council decided and voted that they wanted to have equal coverage across the city so that all citizens have the same capability to the advanced warning system. The siren system is what we call, it's not just a tornado system, it's the outdoor warning system. And its main purpose truly is to alert those that are outdoors of significant weather hazards that they need to go indoors for. A lot of people, one of the misconceptions is I didn't hear the sirens going off. Well, if you're in your house, you will hear them generally, but the goal isn't that is your primary warning system. So for the most part, our goal really is that there are a lot more in parks and things like that and we're more concerned in areas where people congregate outside, because that's where we want them to have the notice to go indoors. Where we do sign the siren off is notoriously we do it for anytime there is a part of Coppell that is in a tornado warning. So doesn't necessarily mean that your specific neighborhood or area that you're in is in the tornado warning. It means that we've had one indicated by the National Weather Service that we are actually in the polygon for the tornado warning. And we don't have them zoned. We don't sound one area off and others. This entire city will go off if we're under tornado warning at all. So it is the, recommendation that people have the secondary way to go and look and determine, are they in harm's way? And what is the protective action they necessarily need to take? So tornado warning, we will do it if we can vet that there is a reliable source, such as a trained storm spotter, that there is tornadic activity in or approaching the city. So if we're looking at it and we can tell through storm spotters, the National Weather Service, that one is coming and it's going to come into the city, we'll set them off. Other than that, for the less rare ones is a significant severe thunderstorm warning within Coppell, where the winds are in excess of 70 miles per hour, or destructive hail, which is 1.5 inches or larger. And I believe in regular speak, that's probably baseball size hail. It might be a little bit larger or smaller. But it's for ours, it's in the wording in the National Weather Service actually has to be very specific with those. I'm less hesitant to sound the systems with that, just because it is suspect on whether, that's actually going to happen or not. But typically I look at the wording of what the National Weather Service says. The other one is hazardous materials emergency, as well as a catastrophic emergency that poses an imminent threat to safety. In that situation, it might be a dam breakage. It might be something else like that that is just very catastrophic, that we absolutely need to get everybody's attention. And so in those situations, we would sound them. We, both Kevin and I, have the capability of sounding them remotely as well as on site from Life Safety Park. So we can do that. And we do monitor 24/7 when there is the potential for hazardous weather, as well as the fire department has that capability to set them off as well. They do sound for, it's a 3-minute tone. If you've heard the monthly test, it'll come up and say, hey, this is a warning of it. For the tornado warning, we don't do that. It is straight sirening. And making sure that that 3 minutes goes off. We can reset them. So the instance in April, where the warning was still going on, I think we set them off for 3 minutes. We waited a minute or two and then re-sounded the sirens. As long as there's a threat within the city, we'll continue to siren or to set them off. So that is kind of just the process of sounding the sirens and them going off. Does anybody have any questions about that? And I know
So
that oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so it's manual. I mean, you guys are reading the National Weather Service printout and then comparing to your grid and deciding whether to set it off.
We are, yes, absolutely. So it is not something that is manually triggered. So some of our Everbridge and some of our phone notifications, those are manually set by parameters within the wording, and will trigger our Everbridge system for those people that have signed up for the phone notifications, whether it's text or emails. So nobody is doing that. For the tornado sirens, we are physically or manually setting them off. We're making the discretion of when and how to do it.
Okay, so I think the other system is automatic then, based on the language. And then,
yeah,
okay.
The Everbridge is automatic. It will automatically, and you can do it based on whether you want flood warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, whatever kind of warnings you want sent to your phone via text or phone call.
And if people in our association have not already signed up for that and want to, what's the best way to go about doing that?
They can go to Notify Coppell. I believe it's notifycoppell.com. Kevin, can you check that out for me real quick? I think it's Notify Coppell. Sure. We can send that link out as well.
Yeah,
we did do a, when we transitioned over, this was before my time. I've only been here since January. So before they did it, they did a white pages kind of integration and dump. So that's some people maybe integrated into the system that didn't sign up for it. As well as I believe they also send the information out in the utility billing on occasion. So there's a lot of people that may get text messages and things like that they don't even know how they got into the system, and that's how that was done.
I sent the link to the chat for the notification.
Okay, yeah, and I think we use the shorter one. I think it can be just Notify Coppell.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
But yeah, so we're excited to be able to continue to expand sirens. I know that it's a tricky subject, especially when it's like, is it going to be near my house? How often do we sound them? Again, we only test audibly once a month. I know there was concerns among some that they hear the silent test. We actually went out and tested and looked at several of our sirens and did some silent tests while we were standing right underneath them, and couldn't hear anything. So we do want to follow up and figure out what noise or sound that is, because we don't believe it's the siren, but we certainly want to make sure that if it's anything from the city, that we address whatever noise that is. But the silent test is truly, you might hear some little mechanical, things, but it's not going to be so loud that even if you're far away from it, you can't hear it. It's just kind of like some mechanical stuff coming from the sirens, but we went out and listened to it just to make sure. So, that the audible test is once a month at 1 p.m. As long as there's no threat of rain or severe weather, we will audibly test those. So is there any other questions before I kind of turn it over to Kevin? All right, Kevin, you want to take over?
Yeah, so we have currently 17 outdoor warning sirens. They are federal signal MOD type sirens. We've got a couple of different models, but basically their job is to provide 120 decibels of the siren sound at 100 feet. So that gives us an effective range of, I think, about 3,000 feet per siren. So we're trying to fill up the 14.7 square miles of Coppell with the appropriate audible levels, which is why we need to install one in y'all's neighborhood. And the spot that I've kind of got picked out is, I don't know if you guys, it's between Barrington and Pinehurst on Riverchase. If you know where Coventry Court is, it's on the other side of Riverchase from that cul-de-sac. So that's a spot that the city has a easement for. That'll give us a good access for maintenance and install, and that'll give us a good range for the neighborhood to be covered, as far as also the golf course and some of the apartment complexes near there too, that need some outdoor audio coverage. And I'm also doing a couple other sirens throughout the city during the same project. One at the north end, kind of one at Denton Tap and Beltline, that area. So we've got a few gaps in our coverage that we need to fill in. So any questions other than that?
I have a question.
Yeah, I got. Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead, Gary.
No, go ahead, Michael. While I'm getting up.
Okay, so I was just looking at the map, Barrington and Coventry. Can you? I mean, they're across the street from each other on Riverchase. Are you just be putting it along the sidewalk, like behind a specific house, or
So
like where?
I'm trying to put it in a kind of as far away from houses as I can, but still there's not a lot of gaps in the neighborhood that gives me exactly what I need for space wise. So there's on Wellington Drive, there's an alleyway. If you come on Barrington, turn right on Wellington, that alleyway kind of has a large vacancy corner where it turns and goes parallel with Riverchase. On the other side of the wall is where I'm kind of planning on putting the siren, but
The Riverchase side of the wall.
yes. Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
it'll be in that easement between the wall and Riverchase.
And where's the other? Because I mean, that's not too far from my map. Where's the other siren currently that's kind of servicing this area?
So there's one that's right next to Coppell Fire Station 2, which is at MacArthur Park baseball fields and by the
Okay.
dog park. It's between the fire station and one of the baseball fields is where the one is over there. It's one of our older
Yeah.
sirens.
Okay.
That one's going to get slightly relocated at some point in the future, just because it's hard to maintain that one because of where it's at.
Oh, is that one of the two that you're talking about moving?
No, that one's not planned to move yet. It's kind of on my
Okay.
radar for future projects.
Okay.
And then, like I said,
Go ahead, Gary.
we've got 17 in the ground and operational right now. 2 others are in the ground but not operational yet, and then one needs to be relocated already. So the reason for the relocation already is because we didn't have these kind of meetings before, and there's a citizen that is not happy about it, and we've been instructed to relocate it. So we want to prevent something like that in the future. So we want to be upfront.
I will add on that the reason for that one is not an inconvenience or the sound is just a nuisance. There is a medical issue related to that one. And so there's a medical necessity that it gets moved. So it's not just that, hey, I don't like the sound of this one. We have to help them out.
Is there another question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I lived on Bethel School, real close to MacArthur, and the
Okay.
one at the fire station is actually the closest one. And I heard Jennifer say that the range is about 3,000 feet. And I also heard her say that it's primarily for people that are outdoors already,
Correct.
which I can certainly appreciate that. But when you're asleep in the middle of the night and there's a storm, now that we do have some technology that would notify you, not everybody is signed up for that. So they still rely clearly on the sirens. That one on MacArthur, most of our storms, when those would be tripped or are set to go off, our storms are coming from the south or the west,
Correct.
southwest, and the wind blows that sound north. So Bethel School doesn't hear them. Every once in a while, when the wind shifts, you can get just a little whiff of it, but that's it. And so and then I noticed on your map that there's nothing down by Beltline, which would be due south of me.
Correct.
And wondered why. I mean, there's two easements, access to two easements down there. Wondered why that area wasn't chosen.
So our border is Beltline on the south end.
Mhm.
So we're not responsible for covering City of Dallas's land. And based on our sound studies that we've done, we have adequate coverage for outdoor, actually into Dallas, south of Beltline. A little bit lacking on the south end of Beltline at MacArthur. But this siren that we're installing over here will fill in the gaps better than some of the other areas. We also have one at Coppell Middle School East that kind of surrounds Bethel School between MacArthur and Mockingbird.
I'm about 1,000 feet from the fire station.
Okay. Yeah.
Can't hear it.
So
And
my
if I
sounds,
can't hear it, I'm sure that people that live down on Crestview can't hear it either.
yeah, and if they're indoors, they're not designed to penetrate walls. They would have to be extremely loud to do that, and it's probably not healthy to be around them when you're talking that loud to be able to penetrate in walls. So their intent is to be outdoor warning sirens, not indoor. Weather radios are a great way to get alerts inside your house. I know we've given some of those out in the past if people are needing, but we can work with somebody if they need help setting one up or anything like that. So
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna also add to that. And you touched a little bit on it with technology, the weather things, figuring out and putting on the apps for the weather things on to ignore the do not disturb. That is probably one of the biggest recommendations, because night storms are very scary. Absolutely. And I live in Hickory Creek, and so we've been having this train come by with all and we lost our quiet zone for a while. So I can appreciate that sudden sounds like that can wake you up, because the trains have been doing it to me. The point I'm saying is, for hearing that can wake you up. That being said, a phone that would do not disturb or something like that, our sirens just are not, I don't believe there's any sirens that are meant to be heard indoors all the time. So making sure that we work with y'all and educate in different ways of how to get that technology indoors, so that it can, whether it's apps, weather radios, various different things of being able to wake you up. And each person is different on what level wakes them up or not. I know numerous people will sleep even through their app. My husband will wake up for anything. So figuring out how to do it safely for your own individual sleep patterns, basically.
Jennifer, have you guys put something about that in the newsletter that goes out with the utility bill and the vision newsletter? Because I think people might be surprised to know that the city is not intending the sirens to be loud enough to wake them up in the night.
Or to even be heard inside.
Or
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe since in the spring season, when I was here, that was probably done. You know, fall tornadoes, in fact, this is I think just 3 years ago was when we had the Rowlett tornadoes, just right about this time. So we might work with our communicator, public information officers to kind of remind about fall storms like that. So we can definitely get that out again, and then we'll put a big push come the spring.
Yeah.
But this fall and spring, we'll work on that.
So I just personally, I would rate the communication about that to the community as low, because I haven't seen anything about it. And when they're doing the fire safety stuff, that's something that it is perhaps something to consider talking to the kids about at school, making sure their parent, you tell them to figure out how to have an escape plan. Maybe we ought to be telling them they need to make sure their parents have a way to know if there's bad weather.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I did want to make one note. So as far as the sound levels you're hearing, 120 decibels, that's at 100 feet. That's the rated output of the sirens. They've got to meet that level. And I've got a sound meter that I test that with periodically. Anytime we do an audible test, I'll run out and do a sound check. At 3,000 feet, it's 70 decibels though. So it's not extremely loud, so it's not going to penetrate into the houses, especially if you're down in a valley or something like that. Just because the sound can only travel in one direction, it can't go down a hill. So those are kind of some of the drawbacks to some of the spots in Coppell that we've got some dips in coverage.
I'm assuming all these tests are done in calm weather.
Yeah, we don't ever sound the sirens unless it's a super calm, clear, sunny day on a Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. So,
Kevin, maybe next time I'll send you out during the warning to have you test it and see how it's going. I'm just kidding.
A couple last questions. I don't run out of time. What's the timeline for installing this new one, and what's your plan for communicating it to the people that live near it?
Yeah, so timeline is once I get a lockdown location and a location that's okay with everybody, it'll be 2 or 3 months after that. So we're working on figuring out how we want to notify the residents that are close by. So, and I'm open to suggestions on how we want to do that, because it's the first time we've reached out for an install of a siren, so we want to make sure we do it right.
So we can talk about it more. I don't think the HOA will carry the burden of that communication.
Yeah, sure.
So the city will need to come up with a good way to do that.
Yeah, my intentions right now is we will probably come up with a letter and send it out to homes that are within a certain distance from it, with kind of a grace period of being able to let us know if they have feedback, concerns, medical issues, reasoning of why that area would not work for them, and be able to work one-on-one with them, because we certainly want to make sure that we're not inconveniencing anyone in a sense that will cause medical or any other kind of issues with that. Even sometimes as simple as, my sleeping room is right outside the siren and I work, nights. And so, we would consider some things like that and make sure that we're not affecting residents as much as possible. So we'll probably set a distance. We haven't set that yet.
Okay. Any other questions before we let Kevin and Jennifer go? All right. Thank you both so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we do appreciate you communicating in advance instead of just putting the thing up and letting us find out about it organically.
Yeah.
So just my notes kind of basically is, and tell me if there's something else I need to kind of add to my notes here. Is that kind of at Bethel School and MacArthur, kind of that South Belt line is not, you know, with the way that the wind blows with those storms, it might be something for us to consider some stronger enhancement. Because again, to your point, we test these in clear blue days, right? So obviously that's not the way that it sounds when the sirens go off. So maybe some additional consideration regarding that. And then just the communication, y'all, as residents, and maybe not understanding that they're not meant to be heard indoors, and to have alternate ways, and even maybe provide some options of how to get alerted at night.
Yep.
And those are kind of my 2 takeaways and notes. Is there something that I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay, I just like to make sure that I'm on the same
Yeah.
page with you guys, you know, and that it's something that we can follow up, because again, we want to make sure that y'all know that we're hearing you, and that we want to make sure that, you know, good partners with y'all. And again, emergency management to us isn't necessarily just about programs putting out, because just like in this meeting, we need y'all to be able to understand and take action on it, and to protect yourselves as well as others. And so knowing what the city has and what kind of how we do things and what we kind of expect from y'all is really important to us. So again, any other times, if y'all want to have us back in the spring or any other time, we welcome the opportunity to come back, speak, you know, whether it's on evenings and things like that. I love the opportunity to get out with y'all.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Y'all have a great evening.